The release of the Treasury's Red Book, a post-election economic briefing for the incoming government, may not have generated the same intense media scrutiny as the desperate battle over who would become Deputy Speaker or even acting Deputy Speaker, but it should have. The Red Book deals with the really big economic issues such as productivity, nation building, climate change, and strangely, no mention of the appropriate length of questions and answers in the parliamentary bear pit. The Treasury's themes resonate with business. I spoke to Tony Shepherd, who among other things chairs the infrastructure players Transfield Services and Connect East. Well, Tony Shepherd, the Treasury's post-election Red Book for the incoming government says that population growth is inevitable, basically suggesting that the political debate on the subject is pretty irrelevant and that we're going to end up with 36 million people in Australia anyway. So I guess the question is our infrastructure actually adequate for that?
Alan, look, firstly, I'm very happy that the Treasury's come out and sort of debunked this whole population debate and brought some economic reality to it. I mean, obviously the country would not cope with its current level of infrastructure with 36 million people, but it's well within our economic and technical capacity to plan and build the infrastructure necessary to sustain such a population going forward. I mean, we've done it in the past and we'll do it in the future. But governments must knuckle down, come up with the right plans and stick to the plan.
So are the plans the right ones?
I think we're heading down the right path with Infrastructure Australia. I think, this national prioritisation of what we need to solve certainly some of the more vexatious transport and water and energy issues is a good idea. I just think that needs to be strengthened. And it needs to be, signed off by the states, and it needs also to be properly funded.
Yeah, but the problem is that infrastructure is not a very good investment. I mean, the two companies that you're involved with, you're chairman of, Connect East and Transfield, have been dreadful investments. So, I mean, that's really true across the whole sector, isn't it?
Yes. Look, I think in terms of private sector investment, I mean, obviously companies like Connect East were hit with the GFC and the collapse of debt and capital markets, and we took the medicine early and recapitalised Connect East now, and it's got approximately half the debt it had when we started. It's trading well. Its traffic is growing. 200,000 people a day are using it in Melbourne. It's making a valuable contribution to the economy. So we've ridden through what could have been a depression worse than the Great Depression of the 30s. In terms of Transfield Services, our infrastructure investments have done extremely well. We manage a fund that all of those investments have been very successful, continue to generate strong cash. So I think we don't want to get mesmerised by the blip of the GFC and the impact on debt and equity markets. I think going forward as an investment, infrastructure still represents good value, but obviously it will be far less highly geared and, things regarding market assumptions will be more conservative.
The government's main infrastructure investment is the National Broadband Network, $43 billion. Of investment there. Do you think that that's the right priority?
I've got to declare an interest first off. I mean, Transfield Services is one of the competing contractors for the national broadband. Look, Australia is a vast country with a sparse population with big gaps between the population centres. I would think broadband would be part of the modern solution to the tyranny of distance problem in Australia and a way of lifting our productivity and global competitiveness.
Well, on the matter of productivity, our multi-factor productivity is actually in decline. Labour productivity has fallen from 3.5% growth to 1% growth, and we're falling behind the rest of the world in productivity. So what do you think about that, and what can we do about it?
I think that is one of the great sleepers in our economy, and one that neither of the major parties has addressed. And I think going forward, if we may use that expression, I think that is one of the issues that government and opposition in Australia must seriously engage on and deal with. We are part of the global economy. We're a huge exporter and a huge importer. We are not insulated from the rest of the world. And this decline in productivity, or the rate of productivity growth, means that we are slipping back in a global competitive situation.
But what has to be done about it?
I think there's a number of things to do. I mean, firstly, infrastructure investment in economic infrastructure, fixing the choke points in our economy, making sure that our freight moves more efficiently, that we supply water more efficiently, that we supply power and energy more efficiently, are obviously a big contributor to productivity. The second issue, I guess, is in training and education. Lifting the skills base of Australia is vitally important, and that can be supplemented by immigration. Is another big issue. Tax reform. On a serious basis, I think we should really have a very good look at the Henry tax reforms and see where they can assist in raising productivity as well. But I really think this whole productivity issue has not been ventilated sufficiently.
Now, we've finally ended the AFL season, second grand final over. You're chairman of Greater Western Sydney side, which is going to start playing the year after next. What's the key to making that new team work?
It's probably the greatest challenge I've ever had, and I've had some challenges over the last 10 years. It's an exciting challenge. There's a combination of things. Firstly, the support of the AFL for the establishment of the new team, and the support of all the other clubs for the establishment of the new team, has been fantastic. I mean, this is a well-run code. This is a code which understands that the growth of the sport in Australia, and particularly in Sydney, requires everybody's support, and so the support has been terrific.
Does the business plan come down to the broadcast revenue from an extra game played each week, 9 games instead of 8, minus the cost of running 2 extra teams? Well,
I think it is that may be at the top level. Yes, that's true, but I think it's more complicated than that. It is, in fact, the AFL approaches this from a community perspective, and it's growing. It's not just the big game on the Saturday that matters. It's growing it at the community level. It's the local football team. It's Auskick. It's the Indigenous programs that we run. It is growing the knowledge and the love of the sport on an Australia-wide basis that's important. And so it's not just an economic issue. At the end of 2012, we count up how much more money we've made out of media and what have you. It is really, have we grown the sport, at the grassroots level as well?
Thanks for joining us, Tony Shepherd.
My pleasure, Alan.